Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our webinar about Capitol Hill Day. While we're waiting for a few more folks to join us, I wanted to go ahead and get started. Especially wanted to thank all of you who joined early or so promptly. Thank you very much. I am Abby Evans. I'm the Senior Director for Government Relations, and I'm joined today by two of my colleagues who I'll let introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Allison. I'm the Government Relations Manager at Mentor.
Hi, I'm Monica Gilsant. I'm a consultant at Mentor.
Sorry about that, guys. We have some background noise. We are in charge of managing and running Capitol Hill Day. So most of you have probably received an email from one or several of us in the last few weeks. Because there are three of us managing this year, which has been such a wonderful treat for me, who used to do this program all by myself, we kind of divided up the country. So certain states were assigned to one of us. So you've probably been hearing from one of us more than the others. But we're all available to answer any of your questions. So today or down the road, don't hesitate to send us an email or pick up the phone and give us a call. We're happy to help you out. And we are just really excited that all of you are joining us in 2 short weeks in DC for our 4th Capitol Hill Day. Okay. I'm going to pause just 1 second, guys, and we'll get started. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm going to walk you quickly through what our webinar agenda looks like today, and then we'll get into the meat of it. We're going to cover goals and logistics for Capitol Hill Day. I really want you all to feel like when you leave this webinar, whether you've participated in Hill Day in the past or this is your first time, or if you're deciding whether or not you want to sign up for Hill Day, which of course we hope you do, we really want you to understand what your expectations are and hopefully what you feel like you'll be able to achieve on that day. We'll go over the materials and how you can start preparing now back home for Hill Day. We're going to cover a new feature we have for you for Hill Day participants this year, an app, which we think you guys will really appreciate. It'll give you up-to-date information and talking points and lots of great stuff. We'll do a quick overview of the bills and legislative issues that we hope you guys cover during your meetings. Adrienne will tell us a little bit about how we'll do feedback for each of your congressional appointments this year, and she will talk about that in a few minutes, but just wanted to kind of place a marker for you guys. The feedback you guys provide us helps us the entire year long, so getting feedback from you guys after your congressional appointments is really, really important. And then, of course, at the end, we're going to do questions and answers. This year, I don't think we'll be able to take questions live, so we need you to type your questions into the box on the right side of your screen. So you can be doing that throughout the webinar, and as we get to the end of the agenda here, we'll make sure we get through all of the questions. Adrienne, Monica, and I will stay on as long as it takes to answer everyone's questions. And should anyone have to hop off early, we are recording this, so we will share the link to this recording next week in our regular weekly communication. So when I talk about goals, I really want to emphasize that I'm talking about, when I talk about success, I really want to talk about what success looks like for you guys. And I have 3 bullets here. You guys are the ones who are going to make this a success, both for Mentor, for all of our supporting partners who are helping us with Hill Day. If you can walk out of each meeting and be able to say yes to one of these bullets, you've had a successful meeting. So if you can leave a meeting and say you've strengthened or established a relationship with a member of Congress or their staff, that's a success. If you can walk out of a meeting and say you did your level best to educate a member of Congress or their staff about mentoring, about issues related to mentoring back home, you've had a successful meeting. If you can encourage a legislator and their office to support key policies, you've had a successful meeting. So if you can say yes to one of those, great. If you can say yes to 2 or 3 of those, you've had a fantastic meeting. So I really want you to know that we are doing our level best to set you guys up for success. And I already know that you guys are the experts of this, of these issues and of mentoring generally. I know that your passion and experience will make your meeting successful. So for those of you who have never done this, you may feel a little nervous, and that's totally normal, but I just want you to know that we are doing our best to set you guys up for success on the 24th. So on Tuesday, January 23rd, that's the day we're asking all Capitol Hill Day participants to come into Washington. Whether you're staying at the Summit Hotel or not, that is where our in-person training dinner is going to take place. The posted time for the dinner is 5:30 to 7. You will notice on this slide, I have it listed at 5:15, and that's really because I wanted to encourage you guys to get there early. We will be covering all the pertinent details about what you should expect during your visits, the bills and issues we'll ask you to cover. We'll do another Q&A session. We'll talk about the logistics and how you'll get to the Hill. And we'll also have you all seated by state so that you can spend that time networking with your state colleagues, preparing for the next day. The training dinner is also where you'll get your Capitol Hill Day t-shirt and the materials, the folders you'll need, which we'll talk about in a little bit. For the second time this year, we're actually going to open up Summit registration at 4:30 that day. So we really want folks to come early, go through your Summit registration, pick up your welcome bag for the Summit, get your Hill Day t-shirt, find your seat. We really want everyone in their seats between 5:15 and 5:30 so we can start the program right away. And if you participated last year, we did not do a plated dinner, but we are returning to a plated dinner this year. So we will feed you. You'll be well fed. We'll go through lots of materials and have an activity plan. So I think it'll be a really helpful night. And if nothing else, it's a really great time to organize with your colleagues and make sure you're ready for the next day. So real quickly, I want to walk you through the agenda for Capitol Hill Day. This is also stuff we'll be going over at the training dinner as well. At 8 a.m., buses will arrive at the Summit Hotel and start loading up and taking you to Capitol Hill. The last bus will leave around 8:30 a.m., so it's really important for you guys to get there and get on the first available bus you can. They'll ferry you up to Capitol Hill, where we'll have a brief program and kickoff event at the Capitol Visitor Center. That's what CDC stands for. This is where we always do our group photo, which is one of my favorite things that comes out of Capitol Hill Day every year. Seeing everyone in their t-shirts and smiling and excited about starting their day. That photo serves as the background on my Twitter page. It makes me smile every time I look at it. So I always love getting this group photo. We also provide light breakfast at that event. For those of you who came last year, you know you go through security. We ferry you into the reception room where the food and coffee is. We encourage you, as soon as you get through security, get your breakfast and then visit with your colleagues. Please don't dawdle. We want to make sure everyone has a chance to eat your breakfast and get your coffee, because you can't take food or drink into the auditorium where we all gather for a check-in and our group photo. So just make sure that you get in and you get right to your breakfast. The program will end by 9:45, maybe even earlier if time's passed or any indication. We really want to make sure that everyone has plenty of time to get to their first set of meetings. Most of you will have your meetings scheduled for you between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. that day. We're working on confirming congressional appointments now. Next week in your weekly communications from us, you'll see what we've confirmed so far, but a lot of the appointments will be confirmed at the last minute. So when you arrive on Tuesday for the training dinner, we will give you the most up-to-date schedule at that time. Some of you may have meetings before 10 o'clock. It just sometimes is unavoidable. That means you'll most likely miss the kickoff breakfast at the Capitol Visitor Center, and that's just the way it is. We'll try to avoid that whenever possible, but sometimes it's a really great opportunity too. Maybe it's the only time a legislator can meet. We want to make sure you guys get that opportunity if possible. So meetings will run between 10 and 4 generally. Starting at 4 o'clock that day, we have the Summit Welcome Reception on Capitol Hill. So while it's open to all Summit attendees, it's also a really great opportunity for Capitol Hill Day participants to relax and celebrate their really great day on the Hill. It's in the Russell Senate Office Building, and you'll see a map in a few minutes where I'll show you where that is, in a beautiful reception room. And right outside the reception room are windows that have a completely unobstructed view of the Capitol Dome that at night is lit up and is beautiful. And I know all of you are going to want to take photos, so we think it's a really special place, and I hope you all join us for that welcome reception. So here is that map I promised for you guys. I think this map does a really good job of illustrating for you the both size and intimacy of Capitol Hill. Excuse me. The buildings labeled 9, 10, and 11 on the left side of your screen, those are the House office buildings. So all representatives have their offices in one of those 3 buildings. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, building numbers 4, 3, and 2 are the Senate congressional meetings. Again, all senators have their offices in one of those 3 buildings. And obviously the Capitol is right there in the center. The arrow on this screen is pointing to number 14, right in front of the Capitol. That is actually the Capitol Visitor Center. So in the morning on Wednesday, the buses will transport you from the Renaissance Hotel up to Capitol Hill. They will drop you off right in front. You might be able to see the street named First Street right in front of the number 14 there. That is where the buses will drop you off. We'll all go into the Capitol Visitor Center, have our program, have our breakfast and our coffee, and then when that program is over, you will all disperse. Some of you will head to the Senate, some of you will head to the House, but that just shows you where you guys will be starting your day. And this one shows you the Russell Senate Office Building. That is where the welcome reception will be at the end of the day from 4 to 6. So again, that just helps you figure out where you are. And I will tell you, so Adrienne, Monica, and I have done and will continue to do our level best to group your meetings, Senate meetings together and House meetings together to really prevent you guys having to walk back and forth. It's not huge, but it's not quick either. So whenever possible, we are lumping those together. We apologize in advance if we're not able to do that, but we're definitely trying our best. And we've been having pretty decent success so far. So this next slide is really, it might seem unnecessary, but every time I'm on the Hill, I watch people struggle with the security on Capitol Hill. So I think this is a good reminder for everyone, especially if you've never been to Capitol Hill. Expect security very similar to what you see at the airport. Every time you enter a congressional building from the outside, you will have to go through security. In fact, some entrances are closed so that they can force everyone to go to an entrance that has security. Just like in airports, they're going to ask you to remove your outer coats. You'll have to put your bags and your phones and anything in your pockets on a conveyor belt to go through the x-ray machine. Please do not bring anything that can be mistaken for a weapon to Capitol Hill. They will confiscate it. And just so you know, mace is actually illegal in Washington, D.C. So I know some people carry mace on the regular, so I recommend you leave that at home or at the very least leave it in your hotel room. And just so you know, sealed boxes and envelopes may not be permitted they may not allow you to bring that into the building, just as a safety precaution. So I don't know, if someone is bringing a letter from back home to share with their members of Congress, that's a great thing. Just don't put it in a sealed envelope, please. We want to make sure that you guys can deliver that. And then one final note for you guys. No food or beverage is allowed in the Capitol Visitor Center. If you are someone who carries a reusable water bottle, it must be empty before you go through security. So either finish it on the bus on the way up or wait until you're inside to fill up. Those are just the rules. So attire on Capitol Hill, again, I hope this is helpful and not infantizing or infantilizing you guys, but it's always a good reminder that business or business casual wear is strongly recommended. You will receive both a Capitol Hill Day t-shirt and a mentor lapel pin when you check in on Tuesday at the training dinner. We encourage you all to wear those. I know it probably seems counterintuitive to tell you to wear business wear and then hand you a t-shirt, but there's really two reasons. I think the t-shirts really make you part of a group. Not only are you noticeable, but you're all wearing the same logos and the same color, and that really helps congressional staff and congressional offices generally recognize you guys as part of a larger group, and that really helps elevate the conversations you're having. And also, it's just wonderful, and you have this treat to take home with you. I hope that folks who have participated in Hill Day in the past wear their t-shirts proudly. I know I certainly do. At the risk of momming you guys too much, I definitely encourage you to wear comfortable shoes and wear layers. DC has very unpredictable weather in January, like many places in the Northeast. Definitely avoid wearing jeans, and please do not wear any tops or pins or buttons with your political affiliation or any sort of partisan or lewd positioning. This is a professional event. You guys all want to represent mentoring in the best light possible, and you want to represent your colleagues and the mentoring movement respectfully as well. And I just thought this photo of very happy people standing in a weird group smiling at us was fitting. So if you're wondering what business or business casual looks like, there's a good sampling for you. So, excuse me. I get the question a good bit, or you know, variants of this question. How can you work with Congress, or how do you go to work every day? How do you possibly work with those people? And I get it. Whether you believe that, you know, DC is the swamp or the shining light on the hill, whatever your opinion, or whatever, something in the middle there, we still need people carrying the flag for youth mentoring. And you guys know this issue backwards and forwards. You're passionate about it. You dedicate your time, your personal time, and your professional time to this issue and the young people that you support. So who else should be speaking on behalf of this issue? And, you know, your experiences, your stories that you will bring to your meetings will really help make these issues real to members of Congress and their staff. You're not going to meet anyone on Capitol Hill, regardless of their party affiliation, whether it's the same as yours or the opposite of yours. No one is going to tell you that pairing a caring adult with a young person in need, whatever that need might be, is a bad thing. No, everyone understands that that's a good thing, but they may not understand the things that go behind it, the training, perhaps a brick and mortar need, expenses of that, right? You know, the research that goes behind it, all that stuff that goes into it, the work, the other things that young people are bringing to their mentoring relationships every day. There's a lot that goes into this that members of Congress and their staff may just not understand. They may simply think it's, you know, good people are volunteering their personal time for a good deed. And sometimes that's what mentoring relationships start out as. But I think most of us know that it becomes much more than that, and there is so much behind it and so much good that can come out of those relationships. So this is why we want dedicated people talking about these issues on Capitol Hill. So why should you participate in Hill Day? I know some of you on this webinar registered to learn more about the event. You haven't signed up yet. We hope you still do. So, you know, the question, why participate in Hill Day? Well, I think the obvious one for me is you've already agreed to take time out of your personal life to travel to Washington, D.C., perhaps pay out of your pocket for hotel and registration fees to come to a conference to with 1,000 of your colleagues to talk about an issue you care about. So you are the exact kind of person who should be talking about this with members of Congress and their staff. More importantly, in-person advocacy is almost always the most effective form of advocacy. So because you've traveled this far about a topic you care about, you definitely want to turn that into a positive working relationship with a congressional office. In-person advocacy is obviously personal, it's conversational. It provides you an opportunity to talk about those issues that are difficult to condense into a cheeky little social media post. You have an opportunity to talk about confusion or misunderstandings and make sure that when you leave that meeting, you have done your level best to explain clearly your issues and your concerns, and hopefully you can elicit an immediate response. This is all about building a foundation for a strong working relationship. So now you've decided, you've already registered or you've agreed you're going to register for Hill Day. What can you be doing now to prepare? And there's a few things. Excuse me. I want you to start thinking now about what message you want to deliver to Capitol Hill. So in a few minutes, Adrienne and I are going to talk about a few bills and issues we hope that you'll talk about during your meetings. But much more importantly is making sure that you are prepared to talk about your interest in mentoring, whether you're a mentor yourself or you work for a mentoring program or you do research on youth mentoring, whatever your connection to this, whatever has drawn you to the summit, that is your story, your message, and what you bring to these congressional appointments. So start thinking now about what you want to share, what you want to make sure those legislators and their staff know about. Also think about what you want to ask them. We will give you a few ideas related to legislation. Maybe we want a member of Congress to co-sponsor a bill. That will be one of the asks. But maybe you want them to come visit your program. Or maybe you want to revisit, maybe you want to invite them to speak at an event you're part of. Whatever it might be, think about those asks you want to gather. Think about the facts and stories, those touch points you want to share. And start thinking and planning about your group strategy. For those of you from states who have, more than 3 or 4 people attending, you really want to start thinking about how you want to organize those meetings. Not everyone is going to talk about all the same bills, right? You're going to divide that up. So you can start having those conversations now. We share everyone's email address in our weekly updates. You will definitely have opportunity to do that at the training dinner on Tuesday. One other reminder to think about, what materials do you want to bring about your program, about your work, whatever it might be, and make sure you print out enough of them for each of your congressional appointments. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, guys. So during your Hill meetings, think about, obviously you want to start off your meeting by introducing yourself. That seems like a silly thing to say, but I can't tell you how often when I was a Hill staffer, people would jump right into their issues and forget to tell me who they are or where they came from. So remember to introduce yourself. If it's a group, either take time individually to introduce yourself or appoint someone who's going to introduce everyone. Try your best to stay on topic. Congressional offices, especially when you're coming from the congressional district or the state, often the staff are from there too. So they're always excited to meet constituents, and there's always some amount of chit-chat, which is wonderful. I would never tell you not to be personable, but definitely be aware of your time. I don't want you to waste your whatever time has been allotted for your meeting. Remember to tell your story, thinking of that previous slide, that stuff you're thinking about now, that message you want to deliver. Try your level best to get a commitment, but regardless of whether you get a commitment or not, promise them you're going to follow up and then actually follow up. You have expertise that is highly valuable to a congressional office. You may not be a legislative expert, but a Hill staffer can call you and say, hey, this bill landed on my desk. I would just love to know what your 2 cents are. You have an opinion that is very valuable, and I hope that you offer to be a resource. Obviously, you want to try to leave time for questions. You want to leave behind whatever materials you brought and we have provided for you, and of course your contact information. And please remember to take a picture. This is, you're participating in a democratic process. That is something to note. I hope that you share it on your social media accounts. obviously, whenever you do that, try your best to link the legislator's office that you took that picture with. So Capitol Hill is kind of a funny place. It's hectic. First and foremost, Capitol Hill is an office complex. It's where members of Congress have their working offices. So there are thousands of people on the Hill who are just going about their business every day. But House offices, Hill offices are small, cramped, and full of people. So it just tends to be a bit of a hectic environment. So things pop up. Maybe a congressional office had 5 groups schedule a meeting with 5 different staffers at the same time. Their office may not be big enough to accommodate all of you. So you might show up on time for your appointment and they say, oh, you're going to meet with so-and-so, but actually we're going to ask you to meet in the hallway. Please don't be offended by that. It's just the nature of a hectic congressional office. So I encourage you to be flexible and go with it. Hill staff are often young. This is just fact. My best advice for you is to give them as much respect as you would expect in return. And for a group of people who dedicate so much of their time to young people, I don't think that would be a stretch for you either. If nothing else, just remember that those very young Hill staff are responsible for briefing their bosses on your meeting and whatever issues you want to raise to them. So you want to leave a good impression, and hopefully they're on their best behavior as well. Your meeting might be short, but offices will always try their level best to extend as much time or extend as much time with you whenever possible. And sometimes, as you start seeing the congressional appointments that have been scheduled for you, you'll notice that they're scheduled to be with a staffer. First of all, that's okay. Hill staff do a lot of work. Members of Congress can't be expected to be experts on every issue that comes across their desk. That's why they have staff, to get into the weeds and to understand the issues better. So you might be meeting with the staffer. That might end up being a better meeting for you, but often if the member of Congress is available, he or she will pop in at least to say hello and maybe to do a group photo. So sometimes they'll extend the meeting in the hopes that the member can get back and meet with you all. And as I said, these offices are small and busy, so you might be interrupted, but again, please don't take that personally. It's just the nature of Capitol Hill. So I've referenced the materials that you should be leaving behind once or twice already. When you arrive for the training dinner on Tuesday the 23rd, you will be handed one folder for each congressional appointment. We will not give you a folder for each Hill Day attendee, just a folder for each appointment that's been confirmed. And inside that folder will be a legislative sheet. That's the issue sheet that will summarize the bills and issues we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. A flyer about Mentor's broader legislative platform, and a little information about who Mentor is and some of the work we do. That will all be on one side of the folder. We're going to leave the other side of the folder completely empty for you and your colleagues to fill. As I've said, I think at least once now, we hope that you talk about the bills and issues we're going to cover for you in a minute, but much more importantly, this is your opportunity to talk to your members of Congress about the programs and the work you're doing back home. So please bring your materials, and we will make sure that entire side is empty for you to fill. The final thing that's going to be included in the folder is a hard copy of an invitation to the welcome reception. All congressional offices will have received that invitation via email already, and a few Hill staff have already started RSVPing. But we want to give you that hard copy invitation for you to pull out of the folder and hand to whoever you're meeting with, and remind them about the welcome reception and encourage them to come spend some time with you between 4 and 6. It's a reception, so they can come and go as their schedule allows. And hopefully that means you'll get another opportunity to chit-chat with them in a bit more casual environment.
Hi, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about our Capitol Hill Day app. I think it's really exciting. One, it's new this year, and it's a really great resource that'll keep everyone connected to everything related to Capitol Hill Day. So the app actually allows you to view a personalized agenda for your day. In the past, you'll know that we also email out your agenda, so you'll have this one-stop shop that you can go and check on all of your schedules. You can see your meeting locations, your times. It also alerts you if any of your meetings change. As Abby said, things change so often on the Hill that it's a really great resource. It can actually just text you and let you know, well, your 10 o'clock actually changed to 11 o'clock, or the member actually changed your meeting location to another place. So it'll give you everything in real time, which is really, really nice when things are changing so often. The app actually also allows you to review specific talking points for each member of Congress. So if any of you have visited the Capitol Hill Day page already, you'll see that you can go to that site and just click on your state, and that'll give you a list of any members who are on relevant committees related to mentoring, or it'll also let you know if your member of Congress has, co-sponsored or introduced legislation related to mentoring. And so the app gives you that right on demand. You click your member of Congress, it shows you, okay, my member of Congress co-sponsored this bill, or no, they haven't, and gives you all the information you really need to know before you get into a meeting. And if you ever want to, let a staff member know what bill they're on or anything, you have it right at your fingertips. And so the Capitol Hill Day app sign-in, I just wanted to quickly go through this, people. The interesting thing is actually that the app is not really an app. It's actually a website. So you don't have to download anything in addition to the Summit app. So the Summit app is our main hub. I think at this point, if you haven't, you'll get an email from Mentor asking you to download this app. So there's actually an icon. It'll say Capitol Hill Day on there. And when you click on it, it'll take you directly to our web page. And so in our web page, all you actually have to do is sign in using the email address that you used to sign up for the Summit. If you don't remember what your email you used, that's totally fine. Just email me. You see my email up there, and I can tell you what it is. And you don't need a password in order to access this information either. And so when you go to it, this is actually what a mock agenda will look like. So if you're from Kentucky, this is some of your schedule, actually. The agenda provides you with the following information: the name of your member of Congress, the district. It also, as you can see, tells you whether or not you're meeting with a member or with a staffer. You'll see in the first one for a Representative Yarmouth, you will be at that meeting. For the Senator Rand Paul meeting, it's with a staffer, so it'll tell you exactly who that person is. It'll also tell you the time of your meeting, the location, and if you click on talking points, that's where I just referred to, where you can see relevant committees as well as past legislation that the member may have sponsored. And if you click on biography, you actually can get a quick background on them, including where they were born, what year they were first elected, what their profession was before they came to Congress, their spouses. It's actually pretty detailed about them. This app also provides you with maps of Capitol Hill, as well as your congressional feedback forms, which I'll talk about a little bit later.
Okay, thanks, Adrienne. So we're going to talk about the 4 bills and issues we're going to ask you guys to talk about during your congressional appointments now. If you receive Mentor's action alerts, or you've participated in Hill Day in the past, the Child Protection Improvements Act will not be new to you. Unfortunately, it has not been resolved yet, but I actually have really great news that I will get to in a second. But let me give you a quick background on what the Child Protection Improvements Act is and does. So CPIA, as we refer to it, would resolve a gap in access that a little less than half of states have right now to FBI fingerprint background checks for youth-serving organizations. Many of you know better than I do, if you run or work in a youth-serving organization or you have volunteered in the past, more likely than not, you've had to go through a background check. The organization you're involved with asked you to fill out information. They may have taken, they may have photocopied your license and that sort of thing. All of these things are pretty standard. Some organizations like to do a much more comprehensive background check, and that may include a state criminal background check, a check against any sexual databases, or an FBI fingerprint background check. Mentor recommends that organizations utilize FBI fingerprint background checks as one part of their comprehensive screening processes. And CPIA would make sure that any youth-serving organization who wants to use that tool may. It does not mandate it, but it would make sure that all youth-serving organizations would have access. So this seems like a pretty non-controversial bill. Yes, it's bipartisan, it's bicameral, which means there's a House version and a Senate version. Mentor and our organizational colleagues have been fighting to pass CPIA for well over a decade, long before I came to work for Mentor. And just about every time you talk to a legislator about this bill, they say, well, that's pretty common sense. It's not a mandate. It doesn't carry a taxpayer expense. But for whatever reason, for probably multiple reasons, we just haven't been able to move this bill forward. That was until 2017. In 2017, the House passed the bill unanimously. It means every member of Congress present voted yes. It was wonderful. A few months later, the Senate did the same thing. The House has passed this bill twice in the past, but the Senate has never done so. So it was a huge win for us, a huge landmark for CPIA when the Senate passed the bill a few months ago. We were very excited. There's one hang up though. The Senate made two very small changes to the bill that Mentor supports and our colleagues and our organizational colleagues support as well. But because they made those two small changes, the House has to approve the bill again. So that's all we need to happen. So when you guys are here on the 24th for Hill Day, we're going to ask you, when you're talking to your House, your representatives, your House members, you won't have to raise this in the Senate, just your House meetings. We're going to ask you to have them support the Senate passed bill with no changes. We got very close to achieving just that in December, and the clock ran out on us. So we're hopeful that with a couple hundred of you on the Hill talking about this bill, how excited you were that the House has already supported this bill and the Senate finally followed through, that we can push this over the finish line. So that is our first bill, the CPIA. And we will go over each of these in more detail at the training dinner on Tuesday, the 23rd. And you will also have hard copies of summaries of these bills in your folders to review as well. So one of the other issues we would like you guys to talk about is funding. And I know for some of you that's a very uncomfortable topic. I'm going to pause here and say, if you have paid for your summit registration via an OJJDP youth mentoring grant, you should not be talking about funding when you go to the Hill. Just don't do it. If you have not had your registration for the summit paid for by OJJDP grants, you're fine. So it's just a personal choice for those people. Many of you know the OJJDP, or the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, is an office housed inside the Department of Justice. OJJDP currently runs the only mentoring-specific competitive grant in the federal government. Now, there are other federal funds that are allowed to be used for mentoring or mentoring-like activities, but OJJDP's grant remains the only one that is specifically about youth mentoring. And we are big fans of the grant, and I know many of you are as well. Some of you may not know, actually, that the OJJDP grant not only funds competitive grants, for Boys and Girls Clubs and the National 4-H Council and others, it also funds the National Mentoring Resource Center, or the NMRC. Some of you are probably very familiar with the NMRC. It is an online research and practice hub. It is also a place where mentoring programs can go and request training and technical assistance that will be made available to them for free. Mentor actually manages the NMRC. We are very proud of that work. A lot of my colleagues put a lot of great work into that and work with researchers and practitioners, you can get that word out, who have really great programs spotlighted on the NMRC. So we definitely Mentor wants to see that grant continued, both to continue the great work of the NMRC, but perhaps even more importantly, to make sure that programs are able to compete for those funds and extend their practice and expand their access. Unfortunately, the OJJDP Youth Mentoring Grant received an 11% cut in fiscal year 17. If you don't already know, we are currently in fiscal year 2018. If you listen to the news, you probably also know that Congress has not finalized funding for fiscal FY18, even though it started on October 1. We are about a week away from Congress having to either pass another temporary spending bill or risk shutting the government down. So hopefully they choose to pass another temporary spending bill. But that also provides us an opportunity. Since they haven't finalized funding for FY18, we can ask members of Congress to restore that 11% cut that was made in FY17. And that would result in returning the funding to $90 million in FY18. So when we send you up to the Hill, we're going to ask you to ask both your representatives and your senators to please support, $90 million for the OJJDP Youth Mentoring Grant in FY18. And we're also going to ask you to encourage them to support $100 million for the grant in FY19. Despite the fact that they haven't finished funding for FY18, they are already starting work on FY19 bills. So it's important this is a great time for us to kind of plant that seed and encourage offices to restore funding and hopefully give us a modest increase in the following fiscal year. This new bill, the Mentoring to Succeed Act, was just introduced in 2017. And the bill itself is really exciting, but I just love how this bill came to be. And if some of you wonder if your meetings on Capitol Hill ever result in something, Mentoring to Succeed is a perfect example of that. Yes, it can result in very real, very good things. Last year, our colleagues in Illinois, from Mentor Illinois, and some of their colleagues had meetings with their senators, Mr. Durbin and Ms. Duckworth, and started talking about their work back in Chicago and throughout the state, and started a strong working relationship with that office that resulted in them coming to them with this concept for a bill. And together, our affiliate in Illinois and programs in the Chicago area helped them craft this bill into something that they thought would make sense for the state. And Mentoring to Succeed Act was the result. So we're very proud of that, and it's very exciting to see something like that can really bubble up from the ground. And also goes to show that they really do want to hear from experts in their community and make sure that the bills they're working on can benefit the people in their communities, but also be effective and make sense for the community. So Mentoring to Succeed, if I had to put a fine point on it, is really aimed at reducing violence in communities, but it also has a really strong emphasis on trauma-informed care, college access and attainment, and workforce development and training. Now, none of those are small things, but this is just an example of how one bill can really help by targeting specifically on mentoring programs, identifying how those programs can really help young people in all of these areas, and we're really excited about that. So our third ask for you guys, for just Senate offices, we don't have a House companion for this bill, but maybe we will soon, is to co-sponsor S1658, the Mentoring to Succeed Act. So that's a really simple ask. Members of Congress receive requests like this all the time. We just want to help Mr. Durbin and Ms. Duckworth get a stronger base of support for this bill, so hopefully we can improve it. And before I move on to our last bill, I do just want to say we've been working with our colleagues at the National Mentoring Disability Coalition on how we can improve this bill and lots of other bills to make sure they're more inclusive. So they've identified some very small tweaks we can make to this bill, and we anticipate that the sponsors will be very open to that. But we're just really excited to be working with our colleagues on how we can improve disability mentoring specifically, but make sure that all bills, especially bills for young people, are inclusive. So we're really excited about that moving forward.
And our last bill was actually a bill, if you were at Capitol Hill Day last year, that was not yet introduced. A lot of you went up to the Hill and actually talked about it. It got introduced in June in the House, and it's called the Foster Youth Mentoring Act. And it's a bill that would provide grants for mentoring programs to serve youth in foster care. So programs can either, train mentors on effective practices. And this bill, to me, really emphasizes this wider need on providing social capital as well as resources for youth in foster care. So our ask is that you ask House members, we have about, I think, 7 co-sponsors on the bill right now, to co-sponsor the bill. It has not yet been introduced in the Senate, and so we'd definitely like to push. We have a couple of senators who are definitely interested in the concept, but I think need a bigger push from their constituents to talk about the real-life impact that mentoring makes on young people in foster care. And I think that especially programs who work with this population, it'd be really powerful to have your personal stories directly heard by your members of Congress. So that our ask is then, if you're in the House, we're asking them to co-sponsor HR 2952, and then if you're in the Senate, you would be interested in speaking to the current senator who is interested in introducing it and potentially introducing it with him. And then I'm going to move on to our feedback on congressional meetings. So one of the things that you can do on your app is actually provide feedback on our meetings. And I think, as Abby said earlier, it's really critical that every meeting have a feedback form on it, because it really does throughout the year allow our government relations team and others to figure out what critical information we need to work with offices. We figure out which members have decided to sign on. We follow up with them to make sure that they actually do go ahead and sign on to legislation. If you find out some sort of personal insight that they're either a mentor themselves or they have a spouse who's a mentor, or there's a staff member, we follow up and we try to figure out ways that we can work with them and have them work with the whole mentoring movement in order to really build upon that momentum that we've learned about them. And so we recommend that during the training dinner on the 23rd, that night, that while you're sitting in your group at your table, depending on, on your state, that you either elect or nominate 1 or 2 people to kind of serve as the people who are going to collect feedback for your states. And you'll see that you'll go through this form, and it's going to ask you for the name of the legislator, if they have any personal connections to mentoring, and they'll actually go through each of the legislative acts that we have, and you'll go ahead and actually just answer, like, did the legislator say that they would support the bill, yes or no, maybe, and any comments that you learned about them or things that you learned that you think are relevant to add as well. And so the feedback form will be hosted on the app, so it'll be all there for you. And just please remember, as you're filling them out, to provide as much information as possible. As much information is really, really helpful to us in our work. And then I think the last part is our welcome reception. As Abby said, it's a really incredible opportunity to really spend time with your fellow advocates, and really, you can take really amazing photos. The reception is open to all summit attendees, so definitely tell your colleagues who may not be coming to Capitol Hill Day that they should also come to the welcome reception. It's from 4 to 6 on Wednesday, and there'll be appetizers and drinks served. It's a really good time to just mingle. Congressional staff always come as well. We have a very light program as well. You'll hear from a match from the DC area, and it's just a really, really fun time. It's in the Kennedy Caucus Room, which is the 3rd floor of Russell. Actually, when you enter the building, you'll be on the 2nd floor, and so it's actually 1 flight up from when you enter. And on our PowerPoint here, you'll see actually a version of the invitations that you'll be handing to members of Congress and their staff as well. So thank you.
So we have reached the point in the webinar where we're going to try to answer your questions. If you have not entered questions you have into the question box yet, please do so now. Adrienne and Monica are going to start reading off questions, and one or several of us will try our best to respond. I'm just going to move this slide to the last one so you can see our contact information, but from this point on, we're just going to stay on the phone until we feel like we've answered everyone's questions. You are also welcome to give us a call later or shoot us an email, and we will do our best to respond. And then one final reminder, we have been recording this webinar, So questions and all will get recorded. We will post that online and also send the link out next week in our regular weekly communication. So they'll have an opportunity to check back on all of this and see the slides. All right.
So our first question is, if you maybe work in one state or you live in another state and you have two states that you're interested in learning more about, can you have details for two state delegations?
I think the simple answer is yes. We just want to make sure that we're coordinating with both of those states. Excuse me, guys. I think my thought would be, why don't you shoot Adrian or I an email with your information, and we will touch base with you personally and figure that out. I don't think there's any reason why we can't make that work. And thanks for your interest. That's great.
Great. And so the next question is, what time will summit registration open on the 23rd, and where do people go to do that?
Great question. So summit registration, sorry guys, my cough's coming back. Summit registration will open at 4:30 on Tuesday the 23rd. And the good news is that summit registration is right outside the ballroom where our training dinner will take place. So whether or not you're staying in the Summit Hotel, you will enter through the lobby, take the escalators all the way to the basement. So you can, there's 2 levels. You want to ride the escalators the whole way down. And then registration will be right smack in front of you when you get off the escalators on the bottom floor. And the ballroom for the training dinner will be off on your right. So it's all very handy.
Are there materials from Mentor and directly from Mentor that we should bring or that we will provide them?
That's a good question. So you are welcome, obviously, to print out any of the materials we have posted on the Capitol Hill Day webpage, which is on mentoring.org. You can find that on the advocacy page, I believe, a link to the Capitol Hill Day page. So we have some of our resources there, and you're welcome to print any of those out. But I think the easiest answer is we will print out any materials you need for the Hill. So if you are a person who likes to have hard copies of stuff and you would like extras, you probably want to go ahead and print those out on your own.
When will people know about the meetings they have and what their agendas look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for those of you who don't know, this is the first year that Mentor has taken over the responsibility of scheduling all of the congressional appointments for all attendees. So I'm sure those of you who have gone through this in the past are kind of wondering what's going on. So next week in our regular communication with you, whether that comes from me or Monica or Adrian or someone else, we will provide the confirmed appointments to date. But the truth is, most of the meetings will be confirmed at the very last minute. So the few days before before Capitol Hill Day. So when you show up to the training dinner on Tuesday the 23rd, we will provide you the final list, hopefully the master list of Hill Day appointments. But as Adrian said, that's why one of the reasons we're so excited to have this new Hill Day app, because if there are changes or a meeting is confirmed after the training dinner but before we head to the Hill on Wednesday, we can update you and let you know, and you'll have that, and we'll make sure to pack some extra folders in case those extra meetings pop up.
Can mentoring programs bring testimonials from individuals in their programs?
Written testimonials absolutely would be a great thing to leave with congressional offices. And I think too, sharing verbally those kind of testimonials are a great idea as well. I'll just remind everyone, I don't know why this would be an issue, but this is a good time to remind everyone to keep things professional and polite. But I think what my biggest wish for Hill Day to become in the future is an event where mentors and their mentees come together, because hearing from young people is inspiring for us as well as members of Congress and their staff. So absolutely bringing those testimonials and talking about the great work and the impact that you guys are seeing back home is exactly the kind of stuff you want to bring.
Is there a dress code for the training dinner?
No, you are welcome to wear whatever you like. Just wear clothes.
And is there a hashtag we should be using?
Oh, that's a great question. So you saw at the in the opening slide, there is a summit hashtag. I think in the past, some of our attendees have used Capitol Hill Day, hashtag Capitol Hill Day. We technically don't, or I should say officially, don't have a Hill Day specific hashtag, but we'll make sure to share all of that at the training dinner. If we decide to create one or something, we'll make sure to share that.
Are there any rules around giving gifts to members of Congress?
So technically there are rules, but if it has, I believe, and Adrian, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think if the actual value is $5 or less, you don't have to worry. So if you want to bring them a t-shirt from your program or a coffee mug that has the logo of, a mentoring program on it or something like that, or a lapel pin, you don't have to worry about that. But if things get a little more pricey, you might want to just shoot Adrian or I an email just to check. But generally the answer is no, you don't have to worry.
Is there a bus providing us transportation to Capitol Hill and then back to the hotel at the end of the day?
There is a bus that will take you to the Hill. There is not a bus that will bring you home. Excuse me, guys. We ask you all to provide your own transportation home. So you can obviously take a cab. Cabs are plentiful on Capitol Hill. You can also take the Metro home. It'll be about $2.25 for a one-way trip on Metro from Capitol Hill back to the Summit Hotel. We will provide you in the app, and I believe it's also posted on the Capitol Hill Day page on mentoring.org, instructions on how to use the Metro.
How do we confirm that we're registered for Capitol Hill Day?
If you are receiving emails from one of us, you are registered. If you are not, or you're afraid that our emails are maybe going into your spam or something like that, either give us a call or shoot us a standalone email, and we will confirm that for you. And for those of you who are not yet registered, who know you're not registered, it's not too late. We definitely want you to register. You can just email one of us, and we'll help you get that taken care of.
Will there be downtime during meetings, and if so, what should we do with the free time?
During Capitol Hill Day, yes. If we will schedule meetings for you, you can do whatever you want with your time outside of those meetings. So I was just talking to an attendee who has come in the past and recommended to a new attendee that they have their meetings in the morning and they try to get a Capitol tour in the afternoon. So I think that's a great use of their time. We're going to try to accommodate that request for them as much as we can with the Hill offices. But there are plenty of things to do, and I think some of you will probably only have a handful of appointments, so you'll have plenty of downtime.
Is Mentor scheduling the appointments with our members of Congress, or are we?
Mentor is scheduling, sorry guys, blame it on cough medication. We are scheduling your congressional appointments for you, yes.
Someone has a question about CPIA. They realize that CPIA is not a taxpayer expense, but what is its financial structure?
Sure, so that's a wonderful question. The way CPIA works is if let's say a local Y has 5 new staff that they want to screen through the program. They will submit those fingerprints in however they are instructed to do so, and then the FBI, or much more likely an entity that the FBI hires to run this program for them, will invoice them for those 5 charges. There is language included in the bill, and this is one of the things we're very excited about, that helps keep those costs down. So we can't guarantee you what the cap will be, but we are told, and we are very confident that for many states would actually be quite a discount.
Do you think it makes sense to bring videos to show members of Congress about our program?
Oh, like maybe videos on their phones? Is that what you're thinking? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and certainly you can always email those to staff and members either during the meeting or after the meeting. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would say if you want to show a video during your appointments, make sure you're talking to any other colleagues who are joining you in those meetings, because you want to make sure that everyone has enough time to talk. So just be respectful of, make sure that you're sharing that time and be thoughtful about what the best use of the actual meeting is. But I definitely think at the very least sharing that afterwards would be a really great boost to the meeting you've had.
If someone has a food restriction, who can they tell for the training dinner?
Oh, sure. So I think when you registered for the summit, you were asked if you have any food allergies or restrictions. So if there were some, we are trying to we are accommodating those for the training dinner. But if you are nervous, feel free to shoot one of us an email, and we will confirm that with our meeting planners and make sure that that's taken care of.
When groups go to Capitol Hill for their meetings, are they meeting only with members alone? Will there be staff in the room? What is that like?
That's a great question. And in case you didn't hear, the question was, when you're in your Hill meetings, are they just with the members of Congress, with staff, or both? And the question is, it depends. So the timing of the summit this year happens to fall at the same time that the House of Representatives is actually recessed. So a lot of the representatives will actually be home in their districts. Senate, however, is in session. So there's a greater likelihood that you might have an opportunity to meet with the senator. But most appointments are typically scheduled with the staffer, and then the member of Congress tries their level best to come in and meet with the group at least part of the time. So I think we have a list of maybe 15 or 20 that are currently confirmed with members of Congress. That number will probably go up a little bit, but that doesn't mean that only those 15 or 20 appointments will see a legislator. A lot of offices go ahead and schedule it with the staff and then add it to the member schedule closer to the date.
On average, how long do meetings last?
That's a great question. So the average length of a meeting is, I would say, about 20 minutes. That depends. If it's a really busy day in that office, they may only give you 15. If it's a particularly slow day or they're just really having a great time with you, it could be half an hour or longer. I think you can assume it'll be about 20 minutes.
Will everyone from my state be in every meeting with me?
It depends on the size of your state. So if you are a big delegation, for instance, I believe Pennsylvania currently has about 18 participants registered. Outside of the Senate meetings, I'm not going to schedule all 18 participants for all the House meetings. That most House offices just wouldn't be able to accommodate that size of a crowd. So we'll divide you up, and we'll always prioritize in House offices. If you reside in that congressional district, you will be assigned to that meeting, and then we'll just kind of play around a little bit and try to even out the total number of meetings each group has, and who is attending which appointments.
So can you tell us again how to view appointments on the app? So what you'll actually do is you'll get an email from the Mentoring Summit, and it'll tell you to download the National Mentoring Summit app. And once you download that app, there's actually an icon that says Capitol Hill Day, and once you click on it, it'll take you directly to the website.
I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys.
How many people participate in Hill Day?
That's a great question. So we still have a few people registering. I think we're going to be around 400 people, probably not quite 400, somewhere between, I don't know, maybe around 375 is probably a safer number to say. We would love more though, so if you know people who are coming to the summit and haven't registered to participate in Hill Day, it's not too late.
And are the slides going to be made available to us after this?
Yeah, so we are going to share this webinar recording, and if you guys would also like it, we will post the slide deck on the Capitol Hill Day page and link that to in the same email with the webinar recording.
Any more questions?
So apparently that's all the questions. I think we'll hold on for maybe a few minutes to see if a few more trickle in. But I'll just say we still have more than 70 of you logged on. That's so wonderful. Thank you all for sticking on to the very end. And thank you, too, for agreeing to participate in Hill Day. Adrienne and Monica and I deal with advocacy and Capitol Hill all the time, so we love it. but we know some people are a little intimidated by it, and we're just so excited that you guys are going to share your excitement and wisdom and knowledge with members of Congress to really help us make a really positive difference for young people on Capitol Hill. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
We have another question.
Another question.
The person wants to know how many people from their state will be in their group.
Yeah, so when you receive the weekly updates from us, we've been including, excuse me, I apologize. We've been including a Word document that includes the list of all of your state's registrants. If you have not received that, go ahead and shoot myself or Adrian an email and we'll make sure you get a copy. So we're just going to hang on here for a few more minutes, see if any other questions come in. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Any more questions, guys? Okay. Well, we will hang on a few more minutes, but it sounds like we may have hit the bottom. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time today. Okay, I think we're going to call it a day. Thank you.